back to Last 60 Best 60. I'm Lourdes, founder of Illumin Magazine, and by now most of you know who I am, so a lot of you are my friends. So I just want to thank you for being a part of my community, and also to just acknowledge you for what you've been doing. If you've been coming even once, if this is your first time, or if you've been watching these videos and participating in this process for the last, we're on 31. So it's been about a month, and I really appreciate all the feedback that you've given. I also feel a shift in what when I was preparing the curriculum, the things I was planning to share with you in the next week or so. I really feel like it's time to go deeper. So because I know so many of you, and the feedback has just been so great and really meaningful that you've shared, I just want to, for all of our sakes, just take us deeper and go into making these last days of 2018 our best days. So I wanted to share with you, and it's going to lead to an exercise, a process that I think will be really interesting for you. So it came out of really like my goal. So I actually haven't even shared it just because I wanted to, I don't know, I just wanted you to have your own goal. And my goal was to really clean up some piles of papers and paperwork that have been piling up for the last few weeks because I've been traveling a lot. And just wanted to get really clear of the piles, as well as really focus in on kind of like our financial papers and kind of making sure we're doing what we want to do with our money as a couple with Jason. But this was my goal, was to get everything organized. We met that night and yesterday and had a conversation. And I knew it would go the way it was starting to go, and I kind of had an expectation of what it would be, more to prepare myself rather than setting myself up. I was just really realistic, and I knew that Jason would want to go into like tactical and let's save more and spend less. Like that's just the mindset that I was expecting, and that indeed was what he said. And I actually said, well, why don't we start by talking about what we learned about money from our parents? And it was just a very, I'll just say it was a hard conversation because I shared what I learned from my parents, and they both weren't empowering pictures and stories of learning about money and value and how to spend it and even how to talk about it. And so it was a hard conversation. But I kept telling Jason, like, if we talk about what programmed us into who we are today in terms of money, but really for anything, love and how we communicate with people and how we choose our jobs and our work ethic, all of that comes from not necessarily repeating the stories of our parents, but truly like the messages that we got and how we interpreted that. And so it was a hard conversation to have because, like I said, it was not very empowering. It wasn't empowering to us because we were both pretty independent in terms of our financials. When we started our marriage, we've remained pretty independent. We share a bank account, but a lot of what we do is very independent because we started out so independent. So I bring this up because one, to realize the stories that make us who we are both unconscious. Like we weren't thinking as we were 7 or 8, like, oh, this is really going to affect how I am as a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old. Like kids are not conscious of what is affecting them, but it does affect them. And hopefully and luckily, many of us come across experiences that make us become more conscious of the stories that are unconsciously playing on in our head that is leading to who we are as adults. And I just bring this story up because I think it's really important to tune into that, our stories, because it really affects our blueprint of our lives. And if anyone has ever built a house, we have not, but I do understand a blueprint. The blueprint is everything. The blueprint says like where the pipes go, what size pipes, where the heat ducts go, and where is the flow of energy. And if anyone has, so building a house, blueprint is really important. And then if anyone has renovated a house, like you could totally redo the exterior, but if you don't work on the interior and the infrastructure, it's still an old house. Like no matter what you do to the outside, there's still the way that it works on the inside. And so I just wanted to bring this up to you, and for all of us to become more aware of what is our blueprint, and especially in these areas that I've been encouraging people to look at in terms of the wheel of life. Like look at your whole life, and if there's areas that feel uncomfortable, unsatisfying, discontent, or causing you anxiety, approach them and look at them and work on your life and look at the blueprint and look at what is driving what is the current situation, and how do you not just deal with the symptoms but really go back to the blueprint and change that as opposed to changing the symptoms and the facade, because that is what's going to really create this life that feels so empowering to live. And even though, so I'll just finish up this story, even though it was a really hard conversation that I had with Jason, it actually was a very empowering conversation, because we left with things that we both were going to do. I had a longer list for some reason, but that's another story. And then I started to read a book that I've actually had since we got married, which was 10 years ago. And it's called Smart Couples Finish Rich. And it's written by David Bach. And I read his book, Smart Women Finish Rich, maybe 15 years ago. And so I just knew that the book would be good. And I only brought out the book last night when I was talking to Jason. I'm like, we should really read this book together. So, we have a plan, and it was a hard conversation, but I know that it's going to lead to more awareness of who we are. So when you're asking yourself, what are your values? Here are a couple of questions to think about. What matters most to you? What is it that you stand for? What is it that you care about most deeply? So thanks for being part of this process with me. I'm so looking forward to this next 30 days, because I really have a sense that we'll be going deeper, and I look forward to any feedback that you have on this process. And again, we're into our last 31 days of 2018. Finish strong. If this is the first video you're watching, or you're catching up, or you feel like you're in the flow of this whole process, stay with it. Finish strong. There's so much that you can accomplish and experience and focus on in the next 30 days. And I'm very excited to be a part of this process with you. Thank you.